I stood on a chilly platform in Vermont, holding a train ticket and a paper cup of coffee that had already gone warm. Across the tracks, the trees blazed gold and red. Exactly what I pictured when I planned this 40th anniversary trip for my parents. I paid for it, organized it, and timed it for their favorite season. I handed my ticket to the agent. He scanned it, frowned, and said, "This one's already checked in." I stared at him. "I'm sorry?" He turned the scanner around like the little screen could explain it. "Checked in this morning, passenger already boarded." That didn't make sense. But even as I tried to argue, a knot formed in my gut. My phone buzzed. It was my brother, Brian. "Tiff really wanted to see the fall colors. You don't even like crowds. We figured it made sense." I looked at the message. Then I looked at the train pulling away without me. I didn't call. I didn't reply. I just stood there with a coffee I didn't want, inside a trip I had built, for people who didn't think I needed to be there. Tiffany had my seat. Tiffany, Brian's girlfriend of 6 months, the same woman who once filmed a TikTok in my guest bathroom while my toothbrush was in the shot. And me? I wasn't an afterthought. I was a placeholder they'd erased. The worst part wasn't that they left. It was that no one thought they needed to tell me. I used to believe being dependable was something to be proud of. Growing up, I was the one who cleared dishes without being asked, the one with straight A's while Brian slid by on late homework and charm. When our dad, Robert, lost his job the year I turned 16, I picked up shifts at the diner and handed every dollar to my mom, Carol, without question. She called me her little rock. I wore that like a medal. Brian was the baby. He needed more time. He crashed the car twice before he turned 20 and never covered the repairs. When he got a C in microeconomics, Mom cried tears of pride. "He's trying so hard," she said. When Brian got into community college, I paid for his books. When he dropped out, I helped him land a job. When he lost it a month later, I co-signed his lease and made the payments when he didn't. He moved in and out of my guest room so many times I've lost count, always with a new excuse. Tiffany was just the latest chapter in his life on somebody else's tab. I didn't complain out loud. I had a good salary as a systems analyst. I told myself I was helping. That's what good daughters do. And if I didn't do it, who would? Mom never asked me directly to pay. She had a softer way of getting there. "Your brother's doing his best, honey. It's hard out there. You're lucky to have a stable job. Not everyone has your sense of responsibility." I don't think she ever really thanked me. Not really. She just expected it. And when I gave, it wasn't a gift. It was simply what I do. Who I am. Reliable, strong, capable. Over the years, it became easier to be that person than to ask why no one else had to be. I didn't plan the anniversary trip to prove anything. I planned it because they once told me they honeymooned. Near the Berkshires, because Mom lit up when fall rolled in, because Dad still kept a faded Polaroid from that trip in his dresser. I thought if I gave them something beautiful, they might finally see me, not just what I could provide. Looking back, I realized they saw me clearly, not a daughter, a solution. It began as a scribble on a sticky note. Berkshires, October. Mom had mentioned a tiny inn near Lenox with creaky floors and maple syrup on the sill. That afternoon, I started researching foliage routes. Within a week, I had everything set. Scenic rail through New England. 2 nights in a historic inn with vineyard views. A private dinner at the same restaurant they visited 40 years ago. I even upgraded their room to one with a fireplace. Just like before, I wrote on the little card I planned to give them. I didn't book anything fancy for myself. I grabbed a small roadside motel and a coach seat on the train. All in. It was just under $9,000. Transportation, meals, activities, a bouquet of asters and goldenrod for their anniversary dinner. I used PTO, rearranged my calendar for 6 weeks, and made sure work wouldn't suffer. Brian wasn't part of the plan, not originally. Mom said he might be too busy with freelance stuff, which usually meant doing nothing while Tiffany practiced TikTok dances in the background. I didn't push. In truth, I pictured a quiet trip, a breath for them, and maybe a moment for me to show I still cared. I wasn't trying to win anything. I'd stopped that chase. But maybe this would be the thing they remembered. A photo they'd frame and send me a copy of, a small crack in the wall between us. It was never about the train or hotel. It was about the table I set, the effort I made, the hope I held. And somehow, it still wasn't enough to get a seat. A week before we left, Mom texted, "Tiff said her fall content would look amazing up there. Brian thinks it'd be fun if we added them. Is that okay?" No mention of where they'd stay, how they'd travel, or who would pay, just the assumption I'd fix it. I stared for a while, then wrote, "If the rooms can still be adjusted, I'll try." I knew how this usually went. Every ask came wrapped in polite words, and somehow, it became my job to make it smooth. That night, I checked the inn. Almost full. I found another small room nearby, overpriced. I booked it. I emailed the train company to confirm seats. Our cabin held 4. Any more, and we'd need to change cars. I asked them to hold our original reservation. I didn't hear from Mom again. No logistics, no follow-up. The group chat went quiet. A few days later, I saw Tiffany post an Instagram story, a pair of brown boots and the caption, "Can't wait for fall adventures." The boots were on my living room floor. She hadn't asked before taking the photo. Something in me tightened. I let it go. That's what I always did. Even as unease crept in, I told myself I was being sensitive. They wouldn't cut me out. They wouldn't. I stayed on the platform long after the train was gone. The sky was hazy, the air soft with mist, the trees moving like they didn't know. How empty I felt. My suitcase sat by my feet. No one called, no one texted, not Brian, not Mom, not even an oops from the train company. I wasn't part of the mistake. I was the mistake. And Tiffany got the scenic view, the carefully planned experience, the seat I'd held for months. I didn't cry, not then. I walked to the cafe across the street, ordered another coffee I didn't want, and sat by the window watching strangers board buses to places I hadn't organized for them. I checked social media. Brian had posted a photo, Mom and Dad smiling, on the platform, arms linked with Tiffany. The caption, "Family fall getaway, finally making memories together." That last word hit like a slap, like they were proud of the picture now that I wasn't in it. I didn't comment. I didn't like it. I locked my phone and stared at the table's scratches, tracing lines that didn't lead anywhere. They didn't forget me, they chose. So I made a choice too. I didn't go home. I rented a car and drove north. No plan, no GPS, just a memory of a quiet town I'd passed through once. Brattleboro. Small, tucked into Vermont's folds, the kind of place where no one asks and the air smells like pine. I found a roadside inn with a fireplace and checked in without unpacking. The window faced a gravel path lined with sugar maples. That evening, I sat by it with a blanket and a cup of chamomile I didn't finish. For 2 days, I didn't check my phone. I didn't answer the few texts that trickled in. Nothing from Mom, just a group message from Brian asking if I'd mixed up the train time. No apology. Just a soft joke. I left it on red. Instead, I walked through orchards, letting go of their last red leaves, through antique shops full of things no one really needs. I bought a postcard and didn't write on it. I thought about mailing it to myself, then tucked it into a book and forgot it. I let the quiet settle inside like something I'd earned. For the first time in years, I didn't have to explain my silence or carry someone else's mess. I didn't have to adjust my tone, shrink my hurt, or tell myself I was being dramatic. I was alone, and it didn't feel empty. It felt true. The trip I planned was gone. The people I planned it for had made their choice. Now I was making mine. I got back to my apartment on a gray Tuesday afternoon. The sky hung low, like the street was holding its breath. I dropped my bag and didn't unpack. Out of habit, I opened Facebook. Mom had posted again, 24 photos. She tagged Brian, Tiffany, and the bed and breakfast. Not me. One image stopped me. The dinner table I had reserved months ago. Candles, flickering, a bouquet of goldenrod and asters in the center. My centerpiece, my reservation, my handwriting still faint on the place cards. Tiffany sat where I was supposed to be. The caption read, "Grateful for our children who made this anniversary so special. Couldn't have asked for a more loving weekend." I closed the app. The next morning, an email from Mom's shared address with Dad. Subject line, photos from the trip. No note, just attachments like I was a distant cousin who missed a reunion. No, we missed you. No, where were you? Just proof the weekend happened without me. That's when I knew. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an oversight. This was the family they chose to show up for. The next day, I drove to the house. My house. The one I bought 6 years ago with my name on every line, every bill, the one I'd let them live in rent-free. They weren't home. I walked room to room. The guest towels I bought were faded. The kitchen smelled like someone else's cooking. Tiffany's raincoat hung on the banister. I stood in the dining room, the same room Mom once jokingly called hers during a toast, and something clicked. They weren't renters, they were takers, and I was done giving. The lease adjustment notice went out the next morning. 2 copies, one on the kitchen counter, one mailed certified. It was calm and professional. No sharp words, just numbers and dates. Rent set to market rate. Utilities no longer bundled. Guest privileges revoked unless approved in writing. A deadline. The 1st of the month. I didn't include a note, I didn't owe one. That afternoon, Mom called. She didn't say hello. What is this? Are you seriously charging us rent? No confusion, just outrage. This is cruel, she said. We're your parents. I waited. Then maybe you should have treated me like your daughter, I said. She scoffed. So this is about that trip? I said nothing. We didn't mean to hurt you. She tried softer. It just happened. I could hear her walking through the living room, the floorboard that always creaks near the window. Your father's upset, she said. But Robert hadn't called, hadn't texted. I didn't know if he cared. You could have just talked to us, she said. I could have, I answered. I chose this instead. You've got until the 1st. After that, it's legal. You're not serious. I am. She hung up. I stood at the sink and stared at the faucet. Not angry, not proud, just steady. The house didn't feel like mine anymore, but it wasn't theirs either. It had been a gift. Now, it was a boundary. 3 days later, an email came from a local law office I didn't know. Subject, intent to dispute ownership. Inside, a scanned letter claiming long-term contributions and shared occupancy, suggesting partial rights to my house. No amounts, no proof, just vague legal noise meant to scare me. I forwarded it to my attorney. He called within the hour. There's nothing here, he said. They have no standing. This is bluster. But it wasn't just bluster. It was proof. They weren't sorry. They were striking back. Brian showed up the next evening. He looked exhausted. The swagger was gone, replaced by a strange, quiet guilt. Tiff left, he said on the porch. Said she didn't sign up for family drama. He didn't ask to come in. He just stood there like he expected the door to open on habit. I don't have anywhere to go, he said. You know that, right? I did. And I knew what would happen next if I let him in. I'm not your safety net, I said. He stared at his shoes. I didn't mean to hurt you. He didn't. Say, sorry. Not really. I didn't say anything back. Dad never called. Not after the rent notice. Not after the lawyer letter. Not when Brian showed up with nowhere to go. He didn't shout. He didn't text. He didn't ask me why. That wasn't new. Growing up, his silence was the backdrop. When Mom pushed too hard, when Brian messed up, when I cracked under the weight of being the steady one, Dad sipped his coffee and moved into the next room. His quiet felt gentle, almost kind. But now I saw it clearly. It wasn't gentleness. It was consent by silence. He let it happen. All the asking, the taking, the assuming. And now he was letting this happen too. The day I dropped off their certified notice, he was out front watering the bushes. He looked up. You don't have to do this, he said softly. It was the only thing he'd said to me in weeks. I met his eyes. I do, I said. He turned back to the rose bush and kept watering, as if he hadn't heard me at all. 3 weeks later, I moved into a small loft across the river. Exposed brick, tall windows, enough space for me and my quiet. No footsteps overhead, no doors slamming, no voices asking for anything. I bought a secondhand couch, a real kettle, and a lamp I actually liked. The air smelled like dust and new paint. I opened the windows anyway. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for my phone to buzz. No group chats asking for grocery money, no guilt-dipped check-ins disguised as love. Just mornings on my terms and evenings that belonged to me. Brian hasn't texted since that night. Tiffany deleted our photos and unfollowed everyone. My parents went quiet too. Mom tried one last text, no greeting. "We miss who you used to be." I replied, "You miss the version of me who never said no. She's gone." There was nothing after that. Sometimes I walk past the park by the station and sit on the same bench where I read Brian's message the day they left without. Me. I don't replay it anymore. I just sit. That's what peace feels like. Not fireworks, not revenge, just the absence of noise. I used to think saying no would make me heartless. Now I know it made me whole. Last week I booked a train to Maine. No itinerary, no group chat, no dinner to organize. Just me, a window seat, and a small town with a bookstore I've always wanted to visit. I didn't ask permission. I didn't check anyone's calendar. I didn't promise souvenirs. I packed light, one bag, a notebook, and a sweater that still smells like cedar. At the station, I paused before boarding and let myself remember that morning in Vermont. The sting was gone. What stayed was clarity. I am not their fixer, their fallback, or their foundation. I am not their plan B. I am my own beginning. There's a sticky note on my new bathroom mirror. 5 words I wrote after the move when the quiet felt sharp. I owe myself the most. Every morning I read it like a promise. Some stories aren't told for sympathy. They're told for recognition. If something in you stirred, maybe this wasn't just a story. Was there a moment you finally said, enough? Share it. Your words might be the light someone else needs. If you've ever felt invisible in the family you held up, subscribe for more stories that don't just end. They free.